So thanks for joining us. We're having a Spotlight on a Space session with folks from Test Lab at ScienceWorks. So we're really excited to hear about their new space. And I'll let everybody on the Hangout introduce themselves, and we'll start with the furthest away and hear directly from David and his crew at ScienceWorks. So David.
Hi, Karen. My name's David. I'm an experienced developer at ScienceWorks in Melbourne, Australia.
Hi, I'm Jude. I'm the exhibition producer.
I'm Tom. I was a programs officer at Test Lab.
I'm Sandra, also programs officer at Test Lab.
And I'm Kate, another experienced developer who helped set up Test Lab.
Great. Ryan, you want to say who you are?
And I'm Ryan. I'm here from the Exploratorium and excited to see what you guys are all up to at ScienceWorks. Great.
And I'm Karen Wilkinson, the director of the Tinkering Studio at the Exploratorium. And the COP, the Community of Practice, is part of ASTEC, the Association for Science and Technology Centers. So let's hear what everybody's up to. So David, you can start, and we'll just ask questions and keep it conversational.
Cool. Well, I think we'll go back to the start. We started this project maybe more than a year ago almost.
Yeah, middle of last year.
Yeah, we knew we had to do something for our winter season in our temporary space at ScienceWorks, which is this big empty hall. And usually we get a traveling exhibition in, I think, was it Tyrannosaurs last year. Yeah. It's had a Star Wars exhibition in it. Anyway, this year we thought we'd try and do a tinkering space. So we went across to see the Exploratorium guys helping the Singapore Science Centre set up their tinkering space. And we did a 4-day workshop with them, which was heaps of fun, where we learned all about, we went through the activities, but then we went through like the thinking and the practice behind them and the guide to facilitation and the process. And so I eventually came back to Australia and was all excited about it. And that's what we were going to do for winter. So that gave us 3-4 months to set up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we about 6 months in total, because we actually worked out what we wanted to do, and then we had the months to sort of shape it up. For us, it's a temporary test of doing a tinkering space as a pop-up space, if you like. So it really was about, what was great was we were given this challenge of, hey, come up with something around inventing, and we come up with a tinkering space, and we were also told on this very tight little budget, it's okay, try stuff. Just give it a go, try different stuff, and some might work, some might not, and that's okay. This was a great chance to test. You don't get that very often in an organisation. We didn't have set targets in terms of visitors and the like. We wanted to try some stuff for a new audience, and the organisation said, look, let's just give it a go and see. So for everybody, it was like, well, what do you want to test and try and do, and give it a go. So we even talked to programs, we talked to our commercial team, we talked to marketing about what they wanted to try, and so we all had played around with it.
That's actually really, that's very refreshing. You're exactly right. You don't really get that opportunity very often, and to invent something around inventing, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm curious, did you guys notice a different engagement or a reaction from the visitors in your space if you were trying experiments or testing things out? How did people respond to that?
The constant feedback we got from parents was, why isn't there more things like this at ScienceWorks?
Yeah, everybody seemed to really like it. And I think we got a lot of the statistics that came back showed that people stayed in the space for longer than they stayed in any other kind of space. They would stick at an area for over an hour just making things. Everybody said that they would tell their friends. We got better feedback than Star Wars, did we? Which was our previous most popular one. It was just really good.
We did a whole lot of audience evaluation. We're happy to share that as well, because it was great, because it was telling us what they thought of generally and specifically on some of the activities as well.
I just know for us, and I think it's different a lot of times at a science center. People think, we have to have everything figured out in this really slick presentation. And I know for us in the Tinkering Studio, a lot of times we're just really open with people who come and visit and say, we're testing this out, we're doing this for the first time. And I think for us, we found really similar
We've lost you.
Just to give some feedback. And
say it again. Your
no,
audio
can
is
you guys-
coming out.
Shaky connection.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Shaky connection. Okay. Anyways, no, but just to say that we found similar things in the Tinkering Studio, that when we can tell people that we're trying this out for the first time, we're experimenting with, people are really excited to test us, give feedback, and they can see that, you know, their engaged feedback is really valuable and important to us. And we're testing something out together, which, I don't know, creates a really nice environment.
Yeah.
We found that with things, every now and then we'd run something for the first time, like sewable circuits. And first time we ran that, we only really had a block of, yeah, you remember that, only had a block of maybe an hour and a bit, and it was just not enough time because it's a very complicated workshop. And so people got to the end and they were only barely done, and it was all a bit of a schmozzle, and our needles weren't the right size. But they were all really, what's the word?
But they also liked that we weren't, like, because we specifically aimed Test Lab for 10 to 15s, we got feedback that they liked the challenge. And also we were not only like teaching them about electronics, but a lot of them hadn't done sewing. We mostly
That was the hard
teaching
part.
sewing.
Yeah. But I think they liked that we were figuring out as well. And it was it wasn't just, we were telling them how to do a thing. There's that pressure to do it right. It's, I'm sure you're aware, it's that thing, we're all working together, we're figuring it out, and it doesn't matter if you don't make it.
We had so much feedback from parents saying, my kid came along, and that they might start from the point of where are the instructions through to, oh, we work it out. And that the parents commented on how much that child lit up and what they actually did and were interested in doing, and how much it held their attention, which was surprising the parents, which was great. And then even some of the interaction between kids of different ages and working it out together was nice. So, yeah.
Great.
I mean, it just think like, what is that workshop in the museum really for? You know, and maybe instead of having it be a neat package where everyone leaves with the same thing, people are leaving with more questions, or they didn't quite finish, but they want to go do it at home, or they want to get information, or they're thinking about the things, you know, the toys or the appliances they have in their house in a new way. Like, that seems like it's a lot more generative of an experience that someone can have. And, you know, it opens up a lot more possibilities than making sure that every, you know, the same point or finish the same thing. So,
And
cool.
true, authentically true to your name. I like that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when we talked about names, we settling on Test Lab. It just felt right because, and we actually said quite up front to visitors that we were testing some new stuff for experiences that we might want to develop in the future, and we wanted to come along and help us test some stuff. And we said that, so that was the sort of philosophy to it. In the space itself, it had, as well as the actual workshop space these guys ran, there was a space which we called our shed, which was ball run. So it was the using the the acoustic panels and the bits and pieces, very similar to that space that you've got, which was open, and it was just with our customer service staff in there interacting, and that was really, really popular, and it held attention too, and that was based on all of the testing David done from various experiences of doing those ball runs. So that was great. We had a space you could just drop into, no charge. Once you paid the entry fee, there was no extra charge. And then there were the workshops that you could book into. So we found that the ball run activity actually also, our ages were really, went around really, really young as well. So, and mind you, if it was really, really young kids in there, the older kids didn't want to go in.
And it became, because it's such a nice, big, welcoming space, it started to get clogged with little kids, which I guess is
It was a science works audience.
tricky.
Yeah, no, it's a funny thing. If 10 to 15 was your target for the workshops, when little kids take over marble machines, the 10 to 15-year-olds tend to scram. So we have that issue too. So David shared some photos with us. I don't know. Can you share your screen and show us some photos? Or
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, computers. Well, computers that aren't mine.
It would just be nice to give people some context to kind of see the space as you guys talk us through it.
Here we go. That's what I need to do. And then I can show you the video. Do you want to see the sort of promo video?
Let's try it. Sometimes video doesn't work so well on Hangouts, but I'll actually post the video if you give me a link to it for the COP folks who can watch it.
That's a good idea.
What was great as well, David setting it up, we did a series of videos that our marketing team did with Tom and Sandra while we were running the program. And so it had different things happening, it showed different things happening and got out there on to the various the social media networks. And so it was great. And had a different feel each time. Yeah.
And actually speaking about, while David's looking it up, the open-ended workshops, when we first started, the workshops that we were developing had much more of a kind of a kit nature.
Yeah.
Like everyone would be making the same thing. Well, you know, variations on the same thing. We're all going to make a little musical instrument or an automaton or something.
Yeah.
But then as we went along, we got more sort of challenge focused.
We wanted, I guess, because maybe we were used to, in our education team, doing things in a certain way. Like the more we went on, the more risks we were willing to take. The more open-ended the works were, the more successful the works were, because we were able to really give over agency to the participants.
Yeah, I think maybe we got more confidence and faith in the kids, and we were like, you know what, you guys do it.
And so, yeah, towards the end, some of the activities we were really hanging back and just watching the kids make stuff, which was really entertaining.
I think it was some of the best ones we did.
Yeah.
And
You're starting to see repeat visits then?
yeah,
definitely.
we were seeing repeat visits the whole way through.
So we had our Thursday Makers Club.
Mhm.
So we had heaps of repeat visitors for those. We had our weekend workshops with...
So Thursday Makers Club was an after-school, slightly longer, slightly more experimental program.
And then we had weekend workshops where external facilitators would come in.
Mhm.
Then we had our school holiday workshops, which were free. We'd have about 3 workshops a day, maybe of about an hour-ish
Yeah.
in length.
Which was pretty much, I think, the minimum amount to get some decent tinkering done. We had to make sure our stuff was fairly simple. We learned our lesson there the hard way.
Yeah, I guess people, well, maybe the expectation was because it was school holidays, at the beginning, we were asked to try and get as many people as we could in a short amount of time.
Which was similar to how things had been run before.
Yeah.
One of the biggest learnings across the organisation is that in trying to do something differently, it's different for everybody. So it meant in the conversations with marketing about how we promote it and the audience and the images we want to put out there, it needs to be different when you're trying to work with a different audience. So it was great. It was good for all of us together to sort of learn together.
Yeah, and it's kind of, can you say a little bit more about that? I mean, it's working with a different audience, but kind of different nature to the work. I mean, it was interesting to hear you describe yourselves kind of opening up and trusting yourselves more. I mean, it makes perfect sense, because when you're trying something new, you've got really tentative ideas, and the more comfortable you become, but it's almost like it's worth reminding ourselves about this process when we are trying things new.
Oh, yes. You have to remind yourself, yes. Sorry, Karen. You have to remind yourself, remind up the line as well, and the organisation who's used to doing things a certain way, and when they, in the conversations in the lead up where it's very much about, yep, this sounds great, let's try it and give it a go, and it's okay, let's take some risk, it's okay if it doesn't work. You then have to remind us, like, we're holding to that. It's okay if some stuff doesn't work, and it's okay if it's going to take a while to build an audience, and we're going to learn from this some great stuff. And sometimes it's easy as an organisation, because we have a mode of doing things, to fall back into that pattern, and we just have to talk about it. And so we did have some great conversations across various teams about, well, actually, we're trying to reach a different audience in a different way. And so you actually, what you had to do was just reassure. There's a lot of reassuring, particularly for me, was about, it's okay, guys, it's all right, and it's okay. Yeah. And the same, it's okay in terms of this part of it, and this is the audience we said we want to try for. So, and let's see what we learn from it.
Can you guys hear us okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, mic's over there. Because compared to a lot of the previous ScienceWorks programs, which were much more the you're being talked at for a half an hour with fun demonstrations, or every now and then they'd have a program where you get to make something, but everyone is making the same thing in about 10 minutes, get them in, push them out. And so this was all very new and a very different approach. So we had to kind of figure that all out as we went.
The best thing I would say that anyone should do if they're trying anything like this, as well as you've got, holding to it and giving it a go. And we were open to adapting where we thought we needed to adapt as we went, which you guys did.
We had a fantastic amount of freedom. That was really good.
Yeah, but we did a lot of evaluation, and so that's the data that we can put then up in the conversations about, well, what did the audience think? The people we're doing it for, rather than our expectations. What did the audience think about it? And the ratings we got and the response was incredibly positive. We know that our restriction in our workshop, our ages of 10 to 15, was the tough part, because we've got lots of 8-year-olds, 7 and 8-year-olds who equally want to be in there doing those workshops.
And some snuck in for sure.
Oh man, we had some tiny kids. I'm like, you're 10, you're 6.
We have some really.
It's like, let me show you some ID.
Yeah, exactly.
I think. I mean, it makes me think like you have different ways of explaining it to different people, right? Like it's like, how do you explain this to the stakeholders or to researchers or to teachers versus talking to parents versus, within your team and your staff? I mean, I'm curious with you guys in terms of who were running the workshops, in terms of the facilitators or the workshop leaders, and were there things that you guys especially did for them to get that group prepared to lead the workshops or to train, or an attitude that you communicate? Okay, so it's you guys.
We were just running the workshops. It was just us, pretty much. With the odd volunteer, but they were always there with us, and the occasional external presenter, who was also always there with us. It was just Sandra and I, pretty much running.
So for you guys, like, what were the things that were helpful for you before trying some of these workshops out with Visitors to the Museum? Like, what did you do, or how did you think about it, in advance of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess we have to make the things ourselves a couple times to figure out where the sticking points were.
Yeah, and maybe what the learning outcome might be. Sometimes not though. Sometimes we'd be like, I feel like, for example, one of the workshops, which was maybe one of our most successful ones.
So the grabby arm?
Yeah, the grabby arm, where we just found a whole lot of basically unused materials. We're like, okay, we've got all of these materials. We also wanted to incorporate some fans into our activity, so we had it. And
basically we set up a wind tunnel, and the challenge was pick up a balloon from here, put it in the wind tunnel without getting too close to the balloon. So they just had to make a reachy grabby device, and that was pretty much all we told them.
But to get to that stage,
there
was a lot of me trying to find a specific thing to make, and then we were
like, are we making scissor lifts?
Yeah.
Where's the
Are we looking at specific mechanics that they're learning about? And then
we just kept breaking it down more and more.
Yeah, then we're like, oh, maybe it's just a design challenge. What are the basic principles of a design challenge? Then we wrote a brief for the design challenge. And then after that, we gave them the challenge. The materials had set constraints, and it was pretty hands-off from that point onwards. But other ones have come about in different ways.
Yeah, I think after a while it's sort of, as you run enough workshops, you get a feel for what's going to work better or worse.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just practice and knowing how it works, and knowing how to at what point to just have a lot of faith in the kids that they will do the thing and be fine, and at what point you need to give them a little bit of explanation as to how a thing might work.
We did also test a lot of the workshops before we went to the general public. We've got a junior board who's a consultative committee for that's going into ScienceWorks for that age group. So we would often bring the idea to them, test it out on them, get some feedback, kind of just observe what they were doing. If it was too easy for them, if it just made no sense, our instructions, because sometimes my instructions are very vague. And just kind of see what they've made, see how much how much they can do that's their own thing rather than something that's too prescribed, I guess.
And it was all quite iterative. Like I remember on the first day of Automata, Tom had this little bit of paper and like all these tallies on it. It's like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just recording every time someone burns themselves with a glue, with the hot glue gun, you know.
Yeah.
And they didn't care as much that they'd burnt. They're just like, I burnt myself, put it in the water, get back to their thing.
I had 2 columns. One was minor burns that the kids were fine with, and ones were burns that required minor medical attention.
Yeah.
The second column was what we were worried about.
But one kid said just the best thing was getting to use like sort of proper tools like that. Like,
Yeah.
And you're never going to
Yeah,
learn
that's
if you
true.
can't.
Yeah. So even in the walkthrough we did with our OH&S manager, where we talked through all of the setup of the space and the workshops, it was also about we want to be able to build up to the stage of doing workshops that have greater risk because it's about learning. And it's about that learning around those sort of tools and taking those risks. And he was open to that. It's about, but for us as an organisation, it's about taking that in steps and building up to that ourselves. So this was a key part of that. We're really interested in some of the things that you do, which actually, you know, there's a lot more access to, I think, to other tools and equipment that saws.
Soldering. I want to know how you do soldering.
Yeah.
We didn't get up to that. I was like, oh, let's get the glue guns down first.
We didn't have enough time to develop that
Yeah.
safely.
Well, for soldering, we don't really take out the tally sheet to see how many times people get burned. We take pretty major precautions there in terms of, you know, it's much hotter than a glue gun, obviously. But no, I mean
But I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
well,
Yeah.
no, I mean, I would just say I feel like a soldering iron is a lot less risky or dangerous than a hot glue gun in practice because I don't just what you're doing and you don't have the hot glue. It's something that's unfamiliar. We had an artist group who was working with us before, and they were like, we were doing the BristleBot, like a little toothbrush with a pager motor that was going around, and they were using these like huge what do you call that? Like a wire cutter? What's that? A bolt cutter, right?
Yeah.
And they're using these huge ones to cut the top of the tooth thing, and we were like, oh my gosh, that looks so crazy. And you know, they're like, well, this isn't dangerous, but like the child's safety scissors, like that's actually dangerous in real life. And something about like if you're using a real tool, you're treating it with respect, you're showing, you know, you're giving people a comfortable, safe space to use it, and you're actually facilitating them, showing them how to do it. People take that seriously, especially when it is something like a soldering iron where they feel like, oh my gosh, somebody's trusting me to use this. I'm actually going to, you know, listen to them and try to figure out how it works.
It's also a right to the right job thing. We were making all sorts of stuff out of cardboard at one point, little pinball machines out of cardboard. And we had a few kids poke themselves with some scissors because they were trying to use the scissors to like poke through some taped cardboard or like saw a bit because that was all they had available because we hadn't given them Stanley knives or anything. And we didn't quite work up to giving kids Stanley knives, but it's because that we.
But I think it goes back to what you're saying about testing the things out yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you make whatever activity it is first, you're going to figure out, well, I can't really do this with scissors, you know, so then you can see what else to try or to test it with some trusted colleagues or friends. It's like you'll start to figure those things out before you have a group of third graders or something.
But also
the
right tool for the right job is a big one. I would definitely encourage you for cardboard, if you do that kind of stuff again, to check out 2 things. There's a company called Uline here in the States that makes something called the Clever Cutter. I would never do cardboard work again without it. It's essentially a Stanley knife, but you don't cut yourself on it. We did use Stanley knives with the public. I mean, we were very cautious about it, but now that I know about this tool, I love it. And then also a Japanese book drill. It's essentially like an awl, but you can push and make holes, like Brad size holes, in cardboard very easily. So those 2 things have really changed the game for us in terms of that material.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
I've got some pictures open if you'd like to see them.
Ah, great. Yeah.
Just find the share screen button. I think it's that one.
That
Your
little
entire-
green one, that green one with the arrow. Yeah. Yeah.
Got it? Okay, where should we start? They're pretty random, but I'll just take you through them. This is the pixel wall. So like this is an idea that Charlie just hated us for because each one takes like 6 pegs to hold it in. So he had to glue all of these pegs into this acoustic panel to make these frames for the pixels to go in. But what was really nice about it was people just like took to it and really seeded off other people's ideas. And I think serendipitously, Pokemon Go sort of came out around the same time, so people got really back into those old games, and people would just sit there. I saw babies just sitting there like fiddling around.
We'd been inspired by other pixel walls we'd seen, which were of like, you know, the corks into the round holes, but very much in conversation with David, it was about like, can we do pixels? So we actually got acrylic cut. We chose the 8 colors, and we got the acrylic cut with the round corners, and so there's this big batch of these squares, and it's such a simple activity, and it was just it's been really successful.
It's really nice because it's always changing as well.
It's in the shed tinkering area, so it's in one corner. We're wrapped around it. There's all of the ball run activity.
What have we got next? Oh, this is our magnetic gears wall. We ordered these in the colors, I think.
Test lab color. So with the whole test lab space, there's probably some overview pics coming. Very much is about it should look repurposed and like made of recycled sort of materials, and so it was metal, slightly industrial. The color scheme the designers sort of added in there was the orange and blue. So we ordered the magnetic gears in orange and blue. So we're also reusing these gears in other programs and exhibitions. But it was just great because it was open-ended, and we did it on the vertical surface, and it means there's no finger trap. So it's been great for a mix of ages in that shed part of the space.
It makes sense to me, you know, before you get into these more dedicated workshops, that you have some things that, you know, don't require a lot of facilitation. You know, it feels like both of those, it's pretty easy to understand what's going on just by walking up and seeing what's happening. But I can tell that kind of gets you a lot of the types of engagement or collaboration or trial and error that, you know, that you want to build on once people come and sit with you for a, you know, hour-long workshop and something. So yeah, those are really nice ones.
Having that mix of self-guided and then staff-led.
And it was great for us to test and see across the ages. So this was for us about testing some different stuff in those spaces too.
So we really built on your facilitation guide that I learned from you last year in December. And here's Sandra sitting next to a kid. You know, this is our workshop space, and we just went to the local hardware store and really kitted it out with like things that actually looked like hardware, actually looked like a real hardware space. This blackboard was great because we wanted a blackboard, but we wanted to make it a bit different. So we got these bits of Perspex, and
we recycled them out of the store. So we actually could say we recycled lots of stuff in the space and repurposed it.
Which was greght.
Yeah, LED lights.
And just
make it.
Sorry, can you say it's LED strip lights around the outside, or
Perspex.
what's going on with that?
Perspex
On the top edge.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Karen. It's LED strip along the top edge of each of them, and we use them for our main signs through the space as well. So we put them in here as, you know, the CSI whiteboard effect. And we etched names into, like we hand sanded etched into others for naming of our spaces, which like you can see it on the background, Scaff Caff. And that's all on, we had recycled bits of acrylic, as you do in back storage areas after lots of exhibitions. And so we just pulled out different sizes and shapes and reused them.
And then we drew on them with neon markers, basically.
Like cafe chalk markers.
Markers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
That's
mentioned
cool.
in case people don't know, Perspex it's Plex. I mean, it's acrylic, plexiglass.
It's acrylic, yeah, acrylic. But just with this pick while you're on it, David, just the other thing about the whole space, we actually used cardboard in different thicknesses and recycled chunks to clad our space. We got recycled workbenches that had come from previous pallet racking and put new tops on so that you could make a mess, screw into them, and it looked like a workshop sort of feel. And we got
I love the lamps.
the industrial power stands, the yellow ones, which we then attached the other desk lamps to as extra work lamps. We ran the whole space, our whole gallery space is 680 square meters. And we divided up into 4 areas, and so we hired a scaffold system in to divide up the space. So it had that kind of built as like an adult Tinker Toy space with the scaffold. We could then attach things to it and make it look like a repurposed, busy, active, make something space.
The guys who installed the scaffolding were really happy. Like, they never installed scaffolding inside before.
Yeah. It was a dream job, but that we had people coming in who were contractors for ScienceWorks that facilities manager would bring into the space, and they went, "This space is great. I want to come here and I want to bring my kids." So it appealed to a lot of people across a lot of ages and backgrounds.
We also had external facilitators come in who said that was one of the best and most functional spaces they'd worked in, where previously, they were given or a place that didn't feel like you could make mistakes in it, and it just didn't work as well for them, and they loved working in TestLab.
Yeah, I think that is really something. I mean, you've been saying a bunch of things worth flagging, but that one in particular, I think, we're talking about making and tinkering spaces as ways of activating our communities. And if you invite people into a space where they are afraid to make mistakes or don't feel very comfortable, you're kind of working with your hand behind your back from the get-go. So I love that your aesthetics of your space really match the intentions that you've all described.
Yeah.
Especially at various points while running the workshops, I was able to just draw on the walls or screw things into the tables. None of it was precious, and I think that appeals to kids, because I'm like, it doesn't matter if you draw on the table. Draw on the table.
And that kind of encourages them to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, they don't feel like, they
They
can
can't
try
stuff up.
Yeah.
This was our ball. Go right.
No, I'd say it's both for you and for the kids, right? I mean, it's freeing for you as a staff or a facilitator also.
Very freeing. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it was a really fun space to be in. This is our ball wall. We did it with practice golf balls. And this plastic here, you can see.
This is our possum proofing.
This is what we call possum proofing. They wrap it around trees that they want to protect from possums. We wrapped it around corners that we want to protect from children getting their fingers stuck in.
Or climbing.
It's the climbing. We had to convince some, where we have to sign off that it's safe putting a scaffold system in and it's not for climbing, and use it to attach. So we had to sort of block gaps and block sort of areas that you could get a grip on. One of the things we used was the cup block system, which is the bolt together, not the ones with the big sort of stars. It was like, you don't want things where people get a big foothold, but we just had to take out the way you could clamber it, but we didn't want to hide it because we wanted it to be sort of like system on show. So we went, oh, well, let's do it like you do with possum proofing a tree. And that meant in the scaffold as well, because it can take the weight of all sorts of structures. We could do things like with those acoustic panels you see there that are doing the ball run, they're just cable tied on. So we just got really thick, chunky orange and blue cable ties and attached pretty much everything through the space was cable ties and a few screws and lots of tape.
Yeah, and all that diagonal orange tape you can see at the top, that's just masking tape that we applied in a repeating pattern and did all the edges in that as a visual cue to where the edges were, but also it just all works aesthetically.
Yeah.
We did some floor marking as well for zones just to test it. It was good. I guess here's the example of what you expect to see and you don't do again.
This was a good lesson in what happens when you put felt tip pens next to a big cardboard wall. It was really fun. Like, they just graffitied
basically
so hard.
There was a wall down the other side which was, hey, leave us, what are your comments, feedback, because we want to learn. Tell us what you thought. And there was a lot of comments like that, but it filled up really fast. And then the next thing, they were coming around the side onto this bit of signage, which was just vinyl lettering signage, and it was like, and then it started into the writing onto the cardboard itself.
There was so
and
many
then we
names.
got a whole lot of other stuff, and we went, okay, so we had to strip it all out and paint it out. So yeah, it didn't last.
It's a great question and I think it's a super big challenge for us in our space is how to get feedback like that, how to capture the things that people are thinking about or making in the moment. And I agree, like I know we haven't had very much luck with doing that sort of thing in terms of having people write post-its or having people write on the wall, but you don't necessarily want to, you can't like ask everyone and have like a 20-minute conversation. So I don't know. I feel like that's a really big challenge for museums and makerspace. Like, how do you actually get that participation and feedback and what's going on?
How do you get it, but also how do you show it in a way that really reveres that thinking? Because, visitors are filled with amazing ideas, but it's a way of showcasing those ideas so that they're meaningful to the people who express them and for people who see them, who are reading or watching.
Yeah. One nice thing we did was we gave an iPad to our floor staff, like our customer service staff, and we had a printer with some photo paper, and it just asked them to take photos of people's inventions as they went around, and they got populated onto the wall. So just sort of
It's like our wall of fame kind of wall.
Yeah, it gave the staff like a reason to interact a bit more. Hey, what are you building? Can I take a picture of that? Can I put it up on the wall? Like, do you want to give it a name or something? And it sort of gave the maker a bit of pride about what they'd done or what they'd achieved.
That's
and then and they sort of drag their parents across and be like, "That's mine, that's mine."
And it started you watching the comments that got written. It was not just blank. It was like the photo. It was sometimes it'd be the name, but sometimes it'd be, "Oh, this was awesome thing." So they were starting to engage in a conversation or a commentary that was just like really interesting to see between those floor staff and the kids who built the thing. Just nice.
Yeah, that was very cute.
Did you have a photo of that?
Let's have a look. I don't. Well, there's one in there. Okay. I'll send it through.
Yeah.
What else? Our education offering actually went really well as well. We initially weren't going to offer it to schools because it was only open for 3 months, I think. But they offered a few programs and it just booked out. Schools are getting a lot of pressure to do STEM workshops, and clearly this is the sort of thing they expect from us. And the second it was on offer, they just snapped it up, which was really surprising and great. So now it's really driven us to do more workshops like that in the future.
And the 3-month run of Test Lab has been extended to
31st of January. So it's running it's slightly differently. So the education team are running their programs in there, and we've changed a little bit what happens in there on the weekends, but it's open and running.
But it's not running as a tinkering.
It's not
workshop.
as a tinkering workshop space. They are running it differently because it's in keeping it on. It keeps some both the shared activities and some other activities in there, and the spirit of this space is great. For while there's a gap, but they're resourcing it differently, just in how they're staffing it, so that it is different. It's not the tinkering workshop style. Yeah.
But to go from something that was
a
a risky experiment that people weren't sure about to something that the museum has extended shows that it's really successful for us.
And it's ended up, because of that, it's also being therefore used as a bit of a showcase for various members of the organisation, bringing in government and stakeholders, taking them through the space and talking about the sorts of things that ScienceWorks is trying to do and where it might be going in the future, as otherwise thinking. And so it's actually been then booked even for some commercial functions have been held in that space. So that's been great for what it was a temporary pop-up creation that started with 3 of us sitting around a table going, what are we going to do in this space? So that's been cool.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. I mean, just getting buy-in on a larger level like that, I think it's it's proof of the concept. It's great.
Yeah, thank you so much. Moratorium, the way just all of your resources that are online and the way you help with facilitation. It's really great being able to email you and Michael at Questacon and Ling Ling at Singapore just with questions, and it felt like we have this international community that we can talk to, and it feels like we're actually part of something bigger, which is great. And actually
that's that sharing spirit you guys do, which is fantastic.
And it's really great because we can sort of point to you guys and say, look, the Exploratorium did it, so we should too.
Well, I mean, I think we do really take it pretty seriously. The community of practice is just that. We're all in this together. And, even, I've been jotting notes down as you've been talking today. I mean, you learn from trying and doing things yourselves. And then when you talk to other people about what you've tried and do, it's just this cyclical learning process. So yeah, we're very interested in not only sharing, but learning from each other. And so David, you sent me, if you don't have these photos, I'll share my screen. We have about 10 minutes left, but there are 2 pictures that I wanted to ask you about specifically. I think where it says Maker's Gonna Make, is that what you're talking about taking photos, that blue wall?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Originally, we were going to get local makers to come in and display stands for a weekend, but we just ran out of time and people. So it became like a wall of fame where we took lots of pictures and
like this.
Yeah, that one.
This is
that
a wall. I'll blow it up a little. Maybe I'll post these originals too on the COP site. But cool.
So as the look and feel of it, we used blueprint images of from our own collection, and to the sort of the graphic background to it, we used blue clothesline wire and bulldog clips, and Kate wrote the text for that, and then I was encouraging the CSOs working with the printer was down the bottom, but like there was a slot in the wall that the photos then pumped out, and it worked really well.
Just elegant, it was simple, but very effective, but just such a nice idea. And I wanted to ask you about this too. What is going on here? What's that?
This is during our setup stage. This is actually our exhibition designer. So it was a very hands-on, let's all make together and get involved. So we have a very hands-on team. This is the exhibition 3D designer who was given the challenge by our 2D designer of, can you come up with the artwork look and feel to do to go on the wall. This is using the cardboard panels as the backdrop to sit next to the little kids ball run that we made in our little zone, right next to the cafe cart area. And so Scott is actually, he came up with the design, he's painting the actual, it's like a little animated ball going through the tubes, and it's got character. And that went on the wall beside, and what was really interesting, we were testing this for our little kids space as well, the idea about the characters and visual instructions without words. And we actually got back in some evaluation that it was working. Kids were looking at it and going, and then going over to the ball run. So that was cool.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, very creative team we've got.
I mean, I'm also interested. I don't know if there's a photo of this, but you guys, in the YouTube video, there's lots of different types of chairs, types of tables, material carts, I think where supplies are. Can you guys talk just, about like those different types of spaces, or were those all things that you started off in the space with? I mean, even those different from a working stool to like what looks like a little, like a beanbag chair or something like that.
Those round coloured ones, and sort of low ones, they're part of ones that's been used in a previous exhibition and have been in storage. And we just pulled out the colours we liked that happened to match our colour scheme, and they went into the shed space. So that was part of our recycling. A lot of the tubs that you might have seen the pieces sat in for the ball run, and we're also in the workshop for storage. We're part of an old exhibition where we stripped off the top, and we made it safe in terms of all the sharp bits, and so that you could drop stuff in because they're on wheels and they were just perfect. So we just went and raided out. We thought, if we're going to encourage this spirit of repurpose stuff at home, we have to start with what we've got in our own storerooms.
So it's really, I mean, I just imagine like most museums or science centers that are out there have all these old things that, were from old exhibitions or in a closet somewhere. I mean, I know we have tons of storage units like that, and finding new uses for them and finding ways to recontextualize them and really make them meaningful in that shot. I don't know. It's inspiring, I think, for a lot of people.
We even hunted for old to sort of dress the space up out of that reaching zone. We got because one of our gallery spaces at Melbourne Museum was being stripped out, and so we went and gathered up all the old electrical cable, and we grouped it into long bunches, and we were feeding that through the scaffold up the top as part of that look of cables combined with old air conditioning pieces that had been in storage. I mean, we gave it that look and feel as well. We went to second-hand shops, and we had other tools from our workshop that we made into tool panels. I know like your tool gates, but ours were up sort of high as part of our sort of signage feel, and that was great.
Yeah, there was lots of raiding the long forgotten storage cupboards, you know, the ones with the inch thick of, they're really fun actually. Once you get into it, like,
Oh, that's scary.
Well, so why don't we do this? We have 5 minutes left. I would love to do a quick round robin. I should have prepped you on this ahead of time, so I'll talk for a little bit and so you can be thinking about this. But I would love to hear each of you just give us a take on, I don't know, where you were thinking about this idea a year from now, and kind of what your thoughts are about where you are today. I don't know, you can take that in any direction. I'm just curious, kind of in your roles or however you wanted to address it.
You mean a year in the past or a year in the future?
A year in the past, like before, maybe the first time you even heard that there was going to be this space, what your thoughts were and kind of where your thoughts are and what you're worrying about today versus then.
I really thought it was going to be a very small scale thing that we'd maybe do for, a couple of months, and it'd be a nice little treat. But now it feels like it's really shifted the way we think about programs, or we approach the way we engage with the visitors. And it's sort of, I don't know, ripped open this whole Pandora's box of like, wow, we should actually be encouraging in the same way you guys do, that creative thinking and the problem solving. That's far more important than, do a thing, go away with your thing.
Yeah.
It's much better that you have an experience, or you have, that little epiphany, or, you get the cogs to join up, or you get your ball to get through the run. Like, those little moments are far more important than taking things away or ticking the boxes or completing the puzzle. It's so I think it's really changed, I don't know, the way we look at things from ScienceWorks, from both exhibitions and programs point of view.
I think it's great. We started with thinking that about the pop-up experience, that very much it was not to be though an exhibition. We had tossed around about, do we bring in bits of technology and inventions and talk about people who've done great inventing sort of stuff. And I'm really glad we steered away from that, because it's also not the stuff that inspires those kids. And this was a chance to do a very different type of space, which is all that about have a go. But not just in a small way or a little bit scattered way. We gave it presence. And from the presence, there's bigger conversations, I think, come as well as the spirit that went into making it. So I'd actually say, looking a year ahead, or down the track for ScienceWorks, I think what would be great is to still to try and keep that spirit of the trying and giving it a go, making spaces, that kind of tinkering, learn from doing principles into more dedicated spaces. That actually means it's not a temporary. And it's also, it changes the way we also offer the whole suite of what we offer across our programs and our style of experiences. And that spirit of have a go, I hope, distills across everywhere, and we don't regress. I want us to go forward on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this kind of thing's very vital. I came from the ScienceWorks programs background. I was doing a lot of the presentations, which involved largely a lot of just telling people about things. Like I said, showing them some Tesla coils or planetariums or whatever, with a small amount of interaction, but only to a minimal degree. And to get a chance to do the test lab was great, because it's so hands-on. It's more kind of personal. Every kid is doing something. Every kid is learning in their own way. There's not anyone who's just having to sit there and watch you as you do a thing. Because I have a lot of fun doing the presentations, but it's not about me. And yeah, I think I would just love to see ScienceWorks doing more of this, because it's been one of the best things I've ever done. It's given me a chance to make all those weird little things, and now I'm just trying to figure out how I can do more of this. Yeah.
I'm similar to Tom. I was a presenter, but my background was in humanities rather than science. So I wasn't sure how I was going to go with the science stuff, but I feel like with a lot of the tinkering stuff, there was a huge intersection between when you're making between art and science. And that was quite interesting in itself and almost facilitated further ownership of what the kids were making, which to me was, I guess, the most exciting thing. And I guess when did we come on? We came on in April.
Yeah, we were brought on sometime after the whole thing was invented by these guys, and the space we were brought on just before the space started to be built, but we were entirely in the workshop space, coming up with the programs, fitting out the workshop, running all the programs, rather than the exhibition as a whole.
Yeah, I guess I knew there would be learning outcomes, but I guess from what you're saying, you know, how you can personalize things, how you can give the participants agency. So the most rewarding things, or the thing maybe I had overlooked when I started the job, was how much it allowed people to build confidence and really us encouraging them.
Including yourself.
And including myself. Like, that was like a personal journey for me too, like to be able to fail and not have everything perfect. So a lot of kids would come in who weren't accustomed to trying things and failing. So being able to sort of instill in them that it's okay, you can try things, it's a safe space, and like asking them questions and allowing them to discover their own sense of ownership through making was really, really amazing. Yeah, that they had the answer and we didn't. So there was like a bit of a status shift.
That was one interesting thing for me, was having to, because I've always been making a lot of things and I, you know, am pretty good at making stuff. And so the trick is figuring out what level kids are generally, and they will constantly surprise you. You'll never predict the kid who will be amazing at building something. It'll be some little 6-year-old who'll make a working pachinko machine or something.
Yeah, don't underestimate your audience.
No.
Absolutely.
Take time.
Yeah, sorry.
I was more involved in the concept at the beginning and the setup rather than the operational, having conversations with Jude about, we're going to make a thing and it's not an exhibition. What could we make? And thinking, well, it has to be a spectacle. It has to be big and impressive. So maybe we could do a giant Rube Goldberg-esque machine over a series of weeks. And each week, you know, whoever comes to the workshop makes a section. So for us, the outcome would be, you know, this spectacular finale where we assemble the whole thing and the whole space is this amazing sort of thing. But that wouldn't have worked for the audience. It needed to be granular to suit the different interests and abilities of the many ages and people who came through. And so I think what we came up with, although we didn't have that, you know, climax moment, the overall outcome was much better.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much. I don't know, Ryan, what you were thinking as they were going along, but you know, I was getting goosebumps just hearing you talk about it. I mean, to me, this points to the bigger idea. I mean, getting those insights from you about the internal workings of your place and what you're trying to offer people, it really is, it's political in a way. I mean, it's like this is a bigger, it's bigger than all of us. And it's actually just wonderful to have a chance to kind of walk through the process with you in terms of your thinking to this point and projecting in the future. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about this. And I also just want to plant another little seed that anytime you're thinking about a new idea or you want to talk through with us again, this invitation always exists. We can talk and share ideas even from a distance, but it's been a real pleasure for me to hear.
It's super inspiring to see what you guys have done just in this past year, this amount of time. I'm super excited to see, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, where you'll be and all the ideas that we'll be stealing and borrowing from you guys as well. So. So thanks.
We
Thanks
need
for
to
taking the time.
eliminate that word stealing. With making and tinkering, there's no stealing. It's rifting.
Yeah. Remixing.
Yeah, exactly. Remixing. So I'm going to stop the broadcast, but thank you so much, and to be continued.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you guys.